Very excited to introduce to you, we have a special guest today, and I know you'll do very well, as always, with our audience. This is, we're lucky to have Mike Alberici from visiting us today. He'll be with us for the week, our music artist in residence. So I'm going to turn it over to him, and he'll take over the show.
Can you guys hear me? Yeah! I've got a microphone right here. It's coming through the speaker over there. So you guys should be able to hear me just fine. Do we have any fourth graders here today? How about fifth graders? All right. Any sixth graders? No. Just fourth and fifth? I have to say, this is the 14th school I visited this year. Normally, I am a music teacher in Hopkinton, New Hampshire, which is about 30 minutes northwest of here. And I've taught music there for 23 years. This year, I took a sabbatical. I get an entire year off, and I chose to make a program called Sound and Focus. I'm visiting probably about 30 schools this year. Every Monday, I show up at a different school, and I go to the school to teach 4th and 5th graders all about sound and how to be better listeners. And this is the 14th school that I've been to. Last week was unlucky 13. Last week, I was at a school and everything went wrong. I had so many problems, so many issues, technology failures, batteries dying. I just had a really bad time last week. But the good news is this, 14 is my lucky number. I was born on the 14th of May, and it's always been my lucky number, so I have a feeling we're going to have a good time this year. First, let me ask you a question. Every school I've been to, the school has some signal that they use when they want everyone to be quiet. When I was at the Christopher College School, they did Wiley, the quiet coyote. When I was at Kensington, they put 2 fingers up in the air. Some schools I've been to, they just put your hand in the air. Can you all show me what your signal is so I know? It looks like you're doing 5, like this?
Yeah.
Why 5? Is that a particular reason? I haven't seen that yet. Yes?
Two eyes looking at the teacher.
Yep.
2 ears listening and 1 mouth shut.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. So let me get 5 means 2 ears listening, 2 eyes watching, and 1 mouth shut. You know what? I am going to take that to every school from now on. I'm going to teach them that because I love that. That is fantastic. Let's talk about your eyes. If I can teach you one thing this week, I want you to know that you listen not with your ears, you listen with your eyes. Your eyes aim your ears. Okay? In my school, at Maple Street School, I'll walk up to a student and I'll say, I can tell you're listening to me because you're looking right at me. Okay? I can look around this room and I can see who's listening to me right now on the back row in the pink shirt. I can see you're looking right at me. Okay? That means you're listening and you can hear my words. Okay? You're smiling. That means you like what I'm saying. Okay? So as I move around today, you're going to see my eyes moving like this, and I'm scanning the crowd to see who's listening by looking at eyes. And I know that people over here are still listening to me. Like you're right there. You're looking at me and you're listening, okay? So that's what I do when I teach, and that's what I'm going to expect from you today and during the week, okay? So I like that when you've got 5, 2 ears, 2 eyes, and 1 mouth closed. Are you guys ready to learn about sound?
Yeah!
I'm going to show you some incredible things about sound today. You guys are going to get 2 chances to set state records, okay? However, I'll warn you, it's going to be hard to break either of these school records, state school records. However, you guys are the biggest crowd I've been to yet this year, and you should have a chance at breaking one of them. But we'll get to that in a minute. Let's talk about sound. We know all about sound in our world, but there's a lot we can learn. Sound is energy in motion. Sound is just energy moving through the air at 760 miles an hour. That's right, sound moves. The speed of sound is 760 miles an hour. Sound moves through air in a wave form. It's a wave moving in every single direction at the same time. Now you guys know about waves in water, right? Yeah. You know about waves in water? We're going to use waves in water to help you understand how sound waves work. Okay, we've got a nice blue floor here. Let's pretend it's water. And let's say I'm standing over here on the beach and I have a ball. Now I'm going to give this ball some energy with my right arm and I'm going to throw it into the air. When it goes high up into the air, it's going to be grabbed by gravity, which is going to give it more energy and pull it back to the earth. When it hits the surface of the water, it's going to transfer some of the energy into the water. Now, notice that ring right there. See that? That's called a vortex. that is really an important part of sound. That is a circle of waves that are going to take the energy that we gave to the ball, and that circle is going to expand across the surface of the water. That ring is going to get bigger and bigger. That energy is going to move across the water. Eventually, that energy is going to hit the shore and it's going to start to dissipate. And that's when you see waves, you know, when they start to curl and they get that white water on the top. That's the energy being lost when it hits the sand. Eventually, it's going to go up on the sand, and then gravity is going to grab that energy again and pull it back down. Now, if you look at that diagram right there, watch it for a second. Stare right at it. That's how water waves move. Water waves move in a circle from one single point across the flat surface of the water. Now look at me. Water waves move like this. Water waves don't move like that or like that. Sound waves are different. They move through the air in every single direction. Watch or listen. Did everyone hear that?
Yeah.
Did you hear that? So sound moved from me to you. Did you hear that? So sound moved from me to you. Did you hear it way in the back there? Yes. Okay, sound moves not like this across a flat surface like water. Sound moves like an explosion. It moves not in a ring, but an expanding balloon at 760 miles an hour. Okay, that means that every single part of this room got hit with that sound wave. Okay? And it bounced off that wall and came back to your ears a split second later. Okay? But it moves so fast that your ear can't hear it that fast sometimes. Okay? So sound is going to move again in an explosion like a supernova. It moves in every direction at the same time. Sound is waves just like waves at the beach. Okay? It moves exactly like waves at the beach except through air in a million different directions. Let's take a look at a sound wave. Do you believe that you can actually see a sound wave? Who believes that you cannot see a sound wave? Who believes that you can see a sound wave? Okay, let's take a look at a sound wave in action. You ready? Sound wave coming up. Here we go. Okay, let's take a look at this. I've got a string right here. This is live. Hey, right up. This is a live camera right here. I've got a string, and the string is attached to a speaker. This is a little speaker for a stereo, and on this speaker, it's connected to my iPad over here, and I can send sound waves through the speaker. And right here, there is a little piston. Now that piston can go up and down. Okay, it goes up and down, and the string is connected to it. So watch. I'm going to give that piston a wave. Excellent. See it going up and down? Okay, so right now, there is a very slow wave, sound wave, going through that string. Now, it's not all that exciting, is it? Right now, that piston is going up and down one time every second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, if we speed it up, we can make an actual sound wave. Let's give it some more energy, and we're going to speed it up, make it go faster. And you're going to start to see a sound wave. Let me explain what's happening here. I'm using my iPad to send a frequency through that string. Right now the frequency is 20 times a second. That means that piston is going up and down 20 times every second. That's why it's blurry. Your eyes can't see it anymore. Now, that wave is called the standing wave. It's a sound wave running through that string, and it's called the standing wave because it's not moving anywhere. It's standing still. Right now, that has a frequency of, how much did I say? 20. Now watch this. If you double the amount of energy that you give to a wave, if you double the amount of energy, watch what happens. Right now we're at 20. I'm going to move it up to 40. Let's double the energy. Ready? Watch it. What just happened? How many waves do we have now? It died. I thought it was supposed to be like 14. many waves. If you look carefully, okay, so this is moving now. That piston is going up and down 40 times every second. And look, can you see the little string going through there? That's because the camera can't catch the string at this speed. So it's giving kind of a halo effect. You see the string going through? Okay, so we doubled the energy, we get twice as many waves. What happens if you double it again? Is going up and down 80 times a second. Okay, 80 times a second. We double the frequency, we double the speed, we get another wave. Let's do it one more time. Ready? We're talking about frequency. Frequency is how fast the wave moves. The frequency of that little piston is 160 times every single second. Think about that. 160 times a second. We have doubled the speed or the frequency 4 times. We're now at 160 and we get 4 waves. We can keep doing this as fast as that little piston will go. By the way, that piston will go to 800. So, I could, if I doubled it again to 320, I'd get 5 waves. If I doubled it after that to 640, I'd get 6 waves, and then that's where I could go another one after that, maybe another one. I could probably get 7 or 8 waves with this machine. But that is a sound wave moving through a string. If I take the energy away, watch what happens. Okay, let's get back to the show. Okay, so just like those waves right there, sound waves move not through water, but through air. Frequency, everyone say the word frequency. Frequency! Frequency is how fast the waves come. Now, frequency is important in sound and it's important in music. If you were to look at those waves, they have a frequency of 4, okay? Frequency is how fast the waves come. Now, your second vocabulary word is pitch. Everyone say pitch. Pitch is really easy to understand because pitch is really what makes music music. Okay? Now, pitch is the note that's produced by a sound wave. Now, here's how it works. If you give something a very, very fast frequency, if you give a sound a very fast frequency, it is going to make a pitch that is very high, like woo, like way up there. If you give something a slow frequency, it's going to make a very deep, low pitch. Now, when you build a musical instrument, I need to see all eyes on me, please. Thank you. When you build a musical instrument, let's say you build violins. When you build a musical instrument, you have to know how frequency and pitch work, because you can't build an instrument without that sort of science. Okay? A low pitch is always from a slow frequency. A fast pitch will always make a high frequency. This means, are there any flute players in the room? Flute players, raise your hand. The reason the flute makes high notes is because it's a short little tube, and the air and the sound moves through it quickly. It makes a high frequency because it makes a high pitch because it's got a fast frequency. Anybody play the trumpet in here? Trumpet players. Okay? The trumpet plays high notes. It's a tube of metal. It's probably about 24 to 36 inches long. It's still a pretty short tube. The air and sound moves through it quickly, so it makes a high pitch. Or, if you are a woman who sings, if you're like a soprano or an alto vocalist, your vocal cords are just a little bit shorter. And because they're shorter, they produce high frequencies and high pitches. Now, the opposite is true too. Anybody here play bass? Any of the adults? Anybody play bass? No? If you play bass, because the strings are so long on this instrument, those strings vibrate slowly and create low pitches. How about the tuba? Anybody play the tuba? Trombone, okay. Tuba or trombone. Hey, see that instrument? You know what that is? That's a trumpet. That's a trumpet, except that tube is about 12 feet long now. Because it's so long, it takes a long time for the air and the sound to get through and make low notes. Or, if you are a very large male opera singer, because you are a large male opera singer, your vocal cords are a little bit longer, and that means you can sing. Like that. Okay? Now, let's look at how pitch works. This is an instrument called the tubula. You may have seen it from a group in Boston called Boom Group. Actually I stole, the concept of a tubulum because this instrument is really great at illustrating how frequency and pitch work together. Now, basically, this is made out of PVC pipe. Okay? It's made out of pipe that I got at Home Depot. I'm going to talk a little bit about how I made it in a minute, but let's talk about how it works. Okay? The lowest note on this tubulum is right here. This is the note B. Now, this B is a certain length, and I had to find out using this sort of tube exactly how long it had to be. Now, because this is a low note, it has to be a long tube. Now, it starts here, goes all the way down, across the front, across the other side, and it comes out here. This is about a 14-foot tube. Now, it doesn't matter what side you hit it on, it still makes the same pitch. Now, remember when we were talking about energy and adding energy and making extra waves? Well, watch this. This is a beat. It's a 14-foot long beat. This note here is also a beat, but it's a 7-foot long beat. By cutting the tube in half, I get the same note, but 1 octave higher. It's the same when I double the energy, basically. If you take half the length away, you get the same pitch. So this is 14-foot long beat. This is 7-foot beat. This is 3.5-foot beat. And this is the smallest beat I have over here. This one is about, what would be the math? What's half of 3.5? What is it?
1.5.
1 in what? 1.9 inches. That sounds about right to me. Okay, so we've got 4 of these, 14, 3.5, and 9 inches. All the same note, but just 4 different versions. Now, as you start here on this end, the notes are lower, and then this note here is a little bit shorter. This one's shorter, shorter, shorter. This one here is about 11 inches. So let me play a little bit so you can hear what it sounds like. Last summer, I decided to build one of these. It was the first thing I put together when I built this show. To build it, I used about 85 feet of plastic tubing that I got at Lowe's and Home Depot. I used about 200 zip ties, I used a plastic cart that I got from the library at my school that they were throwing out. What else did I use? I used a little bit of blue glue to glue some of the pin pieces together. I used a saw. I used a measuring tape. But the number one thing I used to make this instrument was math. That's right, math. Now, when I went online to find out how to build one of these, hey guys, I want you to listen. I want to see your eyes. When I went online to learn how to build the tubulum, there are plenty of websites that show you how to do it. And when I got to the first one, I saw this math equation. Now here's the deal. I don't know how to do math. I know how to add and subtract and divide and multiply. Okay, but as I already showed when I couldn't divide this tube here, and I had to ask that boy back there to help me, when I get to more advanced math, I'm lost. I can play the saxophone, the clarinet, and the flute, but if you ask me to do algebra, forget it. Okay? And I know exactly why. It's because when I was in junior high, I wasn't paying attention in math class. Okay? I was awesome in music class, but I wasn't paying attention in math. When I got to the website that showed me how to build a tubulum, it said, you have to know how to do this. Okay? And it said I needed to find the length of each note. Okay? So it said length equals V slash parentheses 2F parentheses minus C bracket. I have no idea what that means. Okay? So you know what I did? I went to a different website. And when I got that website up, same math equation. I went to like 5 or 6 different websites, they all had the same math equation. Now, I could not do this math. Okay? I freely admit I could not do this. But I'm lucky because I have a 14-year-old daughter. And my 14-year-old daughter, Zoe, can do this math. And I went to her kind of like embarrassed, and I said, Zoe, I need to build 22 notes in a tubulum, and I need to know the lengths of this B and that A. I needed to know all of these lengths. So I gave Zoe a calculator, a pencil, and a yellow pad of paper, and that equation. She went into her room and she came back about 45 minutes later with all the lengths of these 22 notes for me. And she said, this one here, Daddy, has to be 14 feet. This one needs to be 13 feet, 9¼ inch. And this one needs to be 12 feet and 3/75 of an inch. She had every single one of them right. And then I went out in the driveway and built it. So why do I tell you this story? Because everything in the whole world is math. Okay? It is absolutely true. And I could not do this because I didn't have the math skills to do it. So when your teachers start talking about math in class, pay attention and listen, because everything in the world is math. And you may not be lucky enough to have a 14-year-old daughter to help you. Okay? There, excellent. Let's move on. Ready? Next, here we get to the fun part of the show, volume. Volume is wicked easy. Volume is so easy, it's all about energy. If you give a lot of energy to a sound, it's going to be loud. If you give a little bit of energy to a sound, it's going to be quiet. Get your hands out. Ready? Here we go. I'm going to say 1, 2, 3. When I say 3, you clap as loud as you can. Just one time. Don't say anything. Just clap. Give your hands a lot of muscle energy. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Now, do the same thing. That's a pretty good clap. Do the same thing, but give less energy to your muscles and make a quiet clap. Ready? No, wait for it. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Now, volume is all, again, about energy. And volume is measured in decibels. By the way, decibels is a scale that goes from about 0 up to about 200. And this is how we measure the volume of something. So we're going to talk about the decibel scale right now. By the way, if you look at waves, if you actually see a sound wave, remember how you saw that string vibrating like that? If I turn up the volume on my iPad, the string would have a very tall wave like that blue one. And if I turn down the volume, that string would have the same frequency, would have the same number of waves, but it would be smaller. Now this is what happens at the beach. You can see a wave that has a lot of energy, and it's 30 feet tall. But when you see that same wave, when it's coming, it's broke on the shore, and it's lost a lot of its energy, It's over there. Volume has to do with the wave size. So like right now, when I'm speaking really loud here, these waves coming out of my voice, coming out of that speaker actually are really, really big. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at how the decibel scale measures volume. First, it starts at 0. And 0 is absolute silence. And I'm going to tell you right now, guys, you are never going to hear absolute silence in your life. It is nearly impossible to hear perfect 0 decibels. It just doesn't exist. You can come close to it, but you're not ever going to hear perfect 0. A watch, if your dad has an actual watch, one that ticks, it's about 20 decibels. Leaves on a windy day are about 30. A quiet library, not like your library, but a good quiet library, like a public library, like Monday afternoon at 1 o'clock when there's nobody in it, is probably about 40 decibels. When you're talking to one person in the hall, it's 55 to 65. My voice coming out of that right there is about 85. Okay? A vacuum cleaner, household appliances are anywhere between 65 and 85. A lawnmower outside is 90. Once you get over 90, you have to think about protecting your ears. Okay? Because loud sounds over 90 that are sudden can actually damage your ears. If you are, we're close to the airport, aren't we? Can you hear the planes going over? Sometimes, has anyone ever done a decibel meter reading? Maybe we can do that this week. Did they go over to school from time to time? Okay. But it's like right there, right? If you are standing on the airport runway, at Manchester Airport, and you were watching the jet take off, 140 decibels. Oh, and by the way, those little white iPod headphones that you might use are the ones that you put in your ears. If you crank up your iPod all the way to full volume, you're talking 100 to 120 decibels, which can be damaging to your hearing. And when you get over 140 decibels, that is when you are going to have instant damage to your ears. Okay? Once you get over 100, if you listen to it for too long, it's going to hurt your ears, but at 140, instant damage to your ears. Okay? So, let's talk now about loud and quiet places. I happen to have been to 2 of the quietest places in the world. I love quiet. Maybe it's just because I'm getting old, and I've got 2 kids that are making a lot of noise around my house, but if I can find a really quiet place, I love it. And I happen to have been to 2 of them. The quietest place that humans have ever built is something called an anechoic chamber. Everyone said anechoic. Anechoic chamber, there are only 6 of them in the United States. The closest one is at the Harvard University School of Sound. Believe it or not, they have the School of Sound. They have one there. Anechoic chambers are usually used by universities, but they're also used by the military. Okay, these are rooms that can actually make perfect quiet. If you notice these rooms, they have these big fuzzy pointy things, these big foam cones on the floor, and the walls, and the roof. Okay, they all have these pointy foam cones. They absorb the sound waves as they go through. I got a chance to go into the one at Harvard University. When I was in high school, I went to a summer camp there, and they allowed me in for 2 minutes. Okay. Now the one in Hartford is probably only about this big. It's not that big, and they have these brown foam cones. And they said you can go in for 2 minutes. And I walked in, and they shut the door, and I sat down on this stool in this room. Okay. And the first thing I realized is how weird absolute silence is. And I probably got about 5 to 10 seconds of absolute silence. And I sat there, and there was a light on so I could see. And I sat there for like 5 seconds. And then I started hearing this. And no exaggeration, that's what it sounded like. And I realized I was hearing my heartbeat outside my body. Okay, I was actually hearing, not look like a stethoscope, but you could hear your heartbeat in this room. And suddenly I realized that you can't hear silence because when you get into an absolute silent place, your body starts making noise. So after about 10 seconds of listening to my heartbeat, I noticed I could hear this. And that was blood moving through the veins in my heart. Now, I listened to those two sounds for another 30 seconds, and then I started to look around the room, and as I turned my head, I heard, and those are the tendons in my neck stretching. And at this point, I can see that you are kind of wigged out by this. At this point, I'd been in there for about 45 seconds, and I decided I wanted to leave. But right before I left, I blinked, and I actually heard myself blink. I was in the room for probably a minute, and I got up and I knocked on the doors of the attic. And they did, and all the technicians that are familiar with this room all were laughing at me because they know that this happens to people. By the way, Guinness, the world record book, they actually have a record for the longest amount of time that a person has been able to sit in an anechoic chamber. It's 42 minutes. Okay? It is very strange to hear what happens when you're in perfect silence. If you can actually find perfect silence, it's not going to be perfectly silent for long because your body is going to interrupt the silence. Okay? Now, the loudest thing that humans ever made was the space shuttle. When the space shuttle went off, and it went off 153 times, when the space shuttle went off, if you were standing like right there when it went off, well, if you were standing right there, you'd be dead. But if you were standing right there in a bulletproof, fireproof suit, you would experience 170 decibels, which is the loudest sound that humans have ever created. And if you heard that, you'd be deaf instantly. You would blow out your eardrums, and it would be the last thing that you ever heard. Now, the Space Shuttle program, I was alive. I remember being your age when they launched the first one up, and it was the coolest thing. But I realized as I was going around to schools, I'd show this slide, and kids are like, Mr. Wright, what's the Space Shuttle? And I realized that most of the kids that I'm teaching, 4th and 5th graders, may have never actually gotten a chance to see what it was like when one of these devices, this man-made spaceship, went off. So I incorporated it in the show. But let me ask you, do you guys want to see what it was like when the space shuttle went off? I'm going to be more energetic than that. Do you want to see the space shuttle launch? This is this launch of the Space Shuttle Discovery, the final 153rd launch. It will be loud, but it won't be 170 decibels. Sorry.
T-minus 60 seconds and counting. We are transferring to orbiter into normal power at this time. Discovery is now running off its 3 onboard fuel cells. Coming up on a go for auto sequence start. And we have a go for auto sequence start. Discovery's onboard computers are finally in control of all the vehicle's critical functions. T-minus 17 seconds and counting. 15, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, liftoff.
170 decibels, and that was measured a mile away. When you just heard it here, just now, that was 85 decibels. Okay, so imagine an actual sound that's twice as loud. And you saw when I walked past and I put my hand over my ear because it was that loud. Okay? So the space shuttle, again, the loudest thing that humans ever created. Now let's talk about loud and soft nature. The quietest place in America is at the Olympic National Park at the whole rainforest. I actually have been there. I didn't know it was the quietest place in America until I started this program. Now, remember the anechoic chamber, how it had blue fuzzy cones on the wall?
Yeah.
Remember that? Those blue fuzzy cones absorb sound wave? Well, the whole rainforest in the Olympic National Park is way up in the top left-hand corner of America. If you drive all the way into the top left-hand corner, just before you get to the Pacific Ocean, that's where it is, okay? No planes fly over it because it's a national park. But remember that blue foamy stuff in the anechoic chamber? Check this out. The whole national park has its own green foamy stuff. The entire park is covered in moss. Okay? Everywhere you go, the trees, the ground, everything is covered in moss that just absorbs a lot of sound. Now, every day, there's a guy who goes there, and he has this spot marked out, and he calls it the quietest place in America. It's 1 square inch, and he actually has like a little string that marks off 1 square inch. And he goes there every single day. It's like a 10-mile hike to get there. It's in the middle of the forest. And he takes the decibel meter and takes a reading. It averages 27 decibels there, okay, which is far from quiet. But he says it's the quietest place on earth. Okay, he's been going there for about 10 years. It averages 27 decibels. And so far, no one has found a place that's quieter than the whole rainforest. Now, the loudest thing in the world, the loudest thing in nature, is also the biggest. The blue whale. The blue whale can make vocal sounds that are louder than the space shuttle. A blue whale can make sounds 188 decibels and up, and they can be heard from over 400 miles in the water. You want to hear a blue whale?
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, it's kind of cool, but it's not as exciting as the space shuttle. Okay? And it will not be as loud. So here's a blue whale. What do you think of that? I always wanted to say. Okay. Now's the part where you get to try to set 2 state records. In every school I've gone, I've given the students a chance to set the loudest school record and the quietest school record. You're going to have a chance to bring both today. It will not be easy though. I'll tell you straight out. Deerfield Central School in Deerfield, New Hampshire holds the record for loud with 98 decibels. Okay. Sandown Central holds the quiet record for 51 decibels. Okay? So here's what we're going to do. You're going to get 3 chances to break both records. If you break it, I will put it up on my website and I'll notify the school that you beat that they got it. Here we go. We're going to do the quiet record first. To do this, you'll have 3 chances to be as quiet as you can. Now don't be that kid. There's always one kid in every group that tries to ruin everything. And you guys are all going to be quiet. There's going to be one kid who's going to go, make some noise. Don't be that kid, okay? Don't be like that. Now, To break the quiet record, you have to get into quiet position. Here's the quiet position. Put your feet, if you're sitting, just sit like you are. If you're on the floor, put your feet in front of you in sit-up position and bend your knees. Okay? Now, everybody, put your elbows on your knees and put your hands over your ears. Excellent. Now, on my iPad, I have a decibel meter, and I will tell you what your scores are. For the quiet record, I'm going to count to 3, and I want you to close your eyes. Okay? We're going to close our eyes for 10 seconds, and during that time, I'm going to watch my decibel meter. But before I do, I'm going to shut all my electronics off, because I found that the noise from these tend to make about 15 decibels. Let me shut these all off. Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to count to 3. When I get to 3, close your eyes. I'll watch the decibel meter. And when I say stop, I'll tell you what your score is. Ready? First try. You get 3 tries. This is the first. Ready? 1, 2, 3. And stop. That's 53 decibels. By the way, 53 was the previous low record that Sandown broke last week. Okay, so you tied the second place record. Okay, so close some doors and shut off more of my equipment. Let's try again. Ready? Get in position. And close your eyes. And on 3, 1, 2, 3. And stop. With 53 again. Now, can everyone be quiet for a second? Can everyone be quiet for a second? Can we shut the lights off? Is there a way?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Last chance. There's probably no heat or ventilation going right now? Alright, one more try. Ready? Get in position. Close your eyes. 3, 2, 1, go. And stop. 52. Hold on, I probably should have explained something. You need to get lower than 51 to break the record. So to break it, you would have to got 50. But you did get lower than 53. You're 1 off, and you're now in second place. And that's a good job. Now you get 3 chances to break the loud record. Here's how it works. I'm going to wait until you're quiet. I'll wait till you're quiet. Deerfield Central School holds the record at 98 decibels, which is not... No one has even come close to that, okay? But you have a lot of kids in this room and a lot of adults, you've got a good chance. Here's how it works. Hands down. I'll wait until you're ready. I'm going to count to 3. When I get to 3, I want you to say the word hey. And I want you to say it in a specific way. I want you to say it loud as you can. But I want you to say it short. To use a musical term, the word is staccato. I don't want you to go, hey! I want you to go, hey! Real loud and real short. Don't be the kid who goes, hey! That's just going to throw off the rest of you. You get 3 chances. Ready? On the count of 3, say hey. Ready? 1, 2, 3. 95. This will be a lot easier if between our tries we don't have what just happened. Okay? Just keep moving. Okay? 95. Second try. Ready? 1, 2, 3. 97. Higher than 96. So you guys are in second place now. Dig deep. Dig deep. Make some volume for us. Ready? Hey, let's do this. People up there. When you say hey, just once, I want you to stomp your feet. So do a head and stomp your feet and see what happens there. And we won't tell Deerfield about that, okay? Last time. Stomp once right as you say hey. Last chance, dig deep. Ready? 1, 2, 3. 97. Projector can get back up, and we will continue. Sound, as you just found out when you covered your ears, sound is physical. Sound can actually hurt you. Sound can move objects. There's actually a speaker in the world that you can take a small little ball, much smaller than this, and you can put it under a speaker, and the sound of the speaker will levitate the ball and hold it. Okay? Sound can actually move things. Sound can hurt you. Guys, kids, still got a lot of stuff to cover, so let's get settled and refocus. Sound is physical. Sound moves across rooms at 760 miles an hour. Okay? That is a lot of power to move something that fast. Our next vocabulary word is reflection. Reflection is really easy to understand. Reflection happens when you take a ball and you throw it at something, and it comes right back to you. Now that ball was probably only about 40 miles an hour, but my voice is reflecting around this room in every single direction at the same time. That's 760 miles an hour. That means my voice is bouncing off of there and hitting you, and bouncing off of there and hitting you. and bouncing off the roof. And also hitting every single person in this room. We already talked about how sound moves in every direction at the same time. If I snap my hands, every single person heard it. The sound went everywhere at once. Now light. Let's compare sound with light. Those lights up there light up everyone in the room. That light is moving in every direction at the same time. But there's one cool thing about light, and it's called a flashlight. If I had a flashlight right now, I could turn it on and I could aim it right at you. And I could light up your face, but not light up yours or anyone around you. I can aim light just in one little point. You can't do that with sound, can you? No. If I snap, everybody hears it. Now imagine if I could snap and just you could hear it. That would be pretty cool, wouldn't it? Now check this out. This is my favorite part of the show. I'm going to actually show you a sound flashlight. They actually exist. This is one of them right here. This is called a Hypersonic Speaker. And here's what it does. It aims sound in a specific direction. I'm pretty sure I'm the only person in New Hampshire who has one of these right now. And what it does, it will aim the sound right at you. These are going to be used in cars pretty soon. And imagine sitting in a car with a speaker over your head and you're listening to your music, but your brother who's sitting next to you can't hear it.
That would be awesome.
This is the prototype. This is a prototype and it works. The sound quality is not that great, but I'm going to demonstrate it to you. You have to be really quiet to hear this. Okay? So, shh. Let me turn it on. Okay. I'm going to start over here. When I aim it at you, you will hear it. You won't hear it until I aim it at you. Can you guys in the back here? Yeah. Okay. This right now is not available for consumer use. It's used in key places. Police departments are starting to use these. They can hit you with a black, very loud sound and make you go away. Okay. They can hit you with 150 decibels. Of Pharrell Williams, that would make me go away. The other thing that this can do is it can throw sound to a specific location. Watch and listen and point where it's coming from. It's actually coming from right here. Listen again. Right now, it's coming from here. Bouncing off that corner and coming back to you. Listen again. Point. And again. Listen. Okay. Again, this is called a Hypersonic Speaker. It's made by a company in California called Hypersonic. And you're going to start to see in cars probably first, and then in grocery stores next. So, pretty cool, huh? The last thing I want you to understand today is that sound is biological. Hey guys, we're almost done. I know you've been sitting there quietly for a while, but we're almost done. Sound is biological. It all has to do with your ears, obviously. Now, I've always thought that these things right here are little miracles stuck in the side of your head. Your ears are on full alert from the second you were born to the second you die. They never stop working. They're always on full alert. You don't have to make them listen. You can make them listen. You can think about listening and make yourself listen better, but they are always listening whether you want them to or not. Now, usually at this point in the show, I go through with my laser pointer and talk about all the different parts of the ear and how they work, because it's a really cool process, but I think we're running a little short on time, so how about instead of me blabbing about it, I just show you the video? Okay, so here's the video about how the human ear works, and I want you to pay attention. Remember at the beginning of the show when we saw that little circle, that little vortex of water? Okay. Watch here in this video. They actually show you how sound waves move across the ear into the ear, and watch the shape that you see.
Infinite sounds. But how do we actually perceive them? Sounds are collected by the outer ear, which consists of the auricle and the external auditory canal. The sound is guided through the ear canal to the middle ear. The sound arrives at the eardrum, a flexible circular membrane, which starts to vibrate when sound waves strike it. The sound waves are passed on by the movement of the eardrum to the middle ear. In the middle ear are 3 tiny bones, referred to as the hammer, the anvil, and the stirrup. Collectively, they are known as the ossicular chain. These form a bridge from the eardrum to the entrance of the inner ear. Their interaction increases and amplifies the sound vibrations further before these are relayed fully into the inner ear via the oval window. In the inner ear is the cochlea, which is similar in shape to a snail shell. It contains several membranous sections which are filled with watery fluids. When the sound waves vibrate the oval window, the fluid begins to move, thus setting minute hair cells in motion. These hair cells then transform the vibrations into electrical impulses, which are sent via the auditory nerve and onto the brain. What we call noises are actually just sound waves, which are transmitted through the air.
So, when I was building this show to come around to schools, I wanted to do a demonstration on how the ear works. I wanted to show an experiment. I can see that group of boys is not looking and listening right now. Dominic, well. Now, I wanted to show kids how the ear works, but how do you make an experiment that actually shows how the ear works? It's such a complex thing. So I went and I talked to my principal, who used to be a science teacher before he became a principal. His name is Mr. Bissett. And I went to Mr. Bissett and I said, hey, I need an experiment that demonstrates how the ear works. And he got all excited. He said, I have the perfect thing. And he reached down under his desk and he pulled out a little trash can. And he said, this is a Vortex Cannon. And he showed me how it worked. It worked just like the ear works, except in reverse. Now, what he had was basically this, but much smaller. Now, this is a Vortex Cannon that I had built. A company in Concord, New Hampshire built this for me. It's a welding company. They're called Ladd Welding. They make custom Harley-Davidson motorcycle parts. And they designed this. My principal, Mr. Bissett, drew this on a little piece of paper, and I brought it to this welding company, and they built it for me. Okay? So this is a bigger version than what my principal had, but it works just like your ear, but backwards. Now, when you saw the video, you saw these little vortexes coming into the ear. They went inside the opening, and then they hit your eardrum, which is a membrane on the back. Okay? So, what I did is I built basically a giant metal eardrum. I put fabric on the back that's waterproof and it's airproof. I made it wide on one side, 36 inches, and 32 inches on this side, just like your eardrum. It gets smaller as you go in. And I found that instead of rings of air coming into it, you can do the same thing in reverse. You can shoot rings of air out of it. so let's shoot some rings. Here we go. So, it does make a nice big sound too. So, here's a ring coming across the top of your heads. You see that? No. We didn't see that because sound waves are not visible unless you make them visible. So here's another one. Now, so Mrs. Report, will you come and stand right here? Just to show you that something is actually out of here. So we're going to blast Mrs. Report with a 24-inch ring, a vortex of air that's moving at about 50 miles an hour. Are you ready? This won't hurt a lot. Again, you can't see sound waves unless you do something special to make them visible. So all we really have to do to make a sound wave visible is add a little bit of smoke. Stay seated and keep your hands down, okay? There we go. Thank you to Mrs. LaPorte for having me to come today. Around the Broadway. I also want to thank the people and organizations who make Sound and Focus's program reality. First, Music and Arts Company. They are the company that rents your instruments for those of you that play instruments. There's two guys from Music and Arts right back there. They donated this table, this fancy DJ table, to aid me there so I can take it around with all my equipment. Give them a round of applause. out and I shot it off for the first time. They thought it was such a cool thing that they made a second one for themselves. So, glad thank you for that. I also have to thank the Crystal College Sabbatical Foundation and the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation, which made this entire project possible. Thank you very much for being here.